Part 3 of my Whispers of the Old God review, which is Hunter. Um, Very similar to Part 2 where I went over Druid, I'm going to go over the new cards and then maybe build what I consider to be one of the best decks in the format for Hunter for Standard. Alright, so let's hop right into it. So let me say I am also a Golden Hunter. I was a Golden Druid player, but I also have a Golden Hunter. I have gotten Legend with Hunter before. I have played Face Hunter and Midrange Hunter and Control Hunter. I've played all those different kinds of hunters. Um, my favorite style of hunter is the more sort of mid-range board control hunters with Houndmaster. I think Houndmasters are like one of the best cards in the game, and I really enjoy that card. Um, but I definitely have an emphasis on a bit more aggressive mid-range style. Um, for example, like a lot of people were playing Dr. Boom, stuff like that in Hunter, and I very rarely played Dr. Boom. I was still a bit more maybe what you would call hybrid or mid-range style towards the end of the current expansion, and then in the past I always preferred to play topping out at high main type of decks. So, alright, so let's jump right into it. So, Prince Suruhan, the legendary, it's a 5-mana 6/5, and the battle cry is trigger a friendly's minion's death rattle effect. Okay, so I think this card is a trap card. I think it looks amazing, but I don't think it is amazing. I think it's a beast, but I think the beast part doesn't matter. Um, so when you're playing Hunter, you want beasts in play before you play Houndmaster and before you play potentially uh, Ram Wrangler, and you want beasts in play to play Kill Command. And those are the main reason you want beasts. And this card fulfills none of those. Like, it's 5 mana, so it just doesn't synergize very well with the beast that I mean, if it sticks, I mean, in Hearthstone, most minions don't stick around, so most likely you play this and they're going to kill it. The main way you want to get value from this is immediately from the battle cry, and frankly, I think this is almost worse than Mounted Raptor, and even harder to set up, right? Like Mounted Raptor never really quite worked, and the reason is because people don't tend to leave your minion just sitting there for you to death rattle it. So the best way to make a Mounted Raptor work was to like play a turn 5 egg plus Mounted Raptor or something like this, right? Um, Occasionally you play an egg and they can't deal with it and you put a Mounted Raptor on it and it works out okay or whatever. In Standard there will be no egg, there will be no Haunted Creeper, there will be no Shredder. I don't think this is great on any of those anyway, right? Like, um, if you Princess Hurahan and get an extra 2 mana random minion, is it really that good? Is it I mean it's okay, it's good, but it's not like just game changing. It's not game changing at all. Like, for example, Ram Wrangler could be way better than this many times. Like if you play Ram Wrangler and get a 6/5 beast, this or anything bigger than this, then Ram Wrangler was almost certainly better than what this was. Now, granted, that's not all the time, but that is also easier to set up. Um, so, yeah, I just think like the ability sounds great. I've also played a lot of Feign Death Hunter actually, and it's great when it works, but the best way to use Feign Death is not on one minion unless it's Sylvanas. You're never going to set up Sylvanas with this. Most times the best way to do it was to get like a few small things and the advantages add up. And even then it normally wasn't great, so it's like you get 2 creeper tokens and a secret from a scientist and an egg or something, then it's okay, but even then, I mean, it's not like Death Rattle Hunter worked, right, with Feign Death, and you could set up much better situations with the Feign Death. So I don't think this effect is something that's super strong, having played with it a decent amount. Um, and I don't think, especially in Standard, there are enough things to support it. So now we're just talking about we're playing a 6/5 for 5, which is better than a 5/5 for 5 slightly, but I just think Stranglethorn Tiger is better than this card. I mean, then you have a minion that's guaranteed to be in play next turn. It's also a beast. It's guaranteed to get 5 damage to something, and then it's guaranteed to activate Houndmaster or Ram Wrangler the following turn. I can't see ever playing Stranglethorn Tiger, Ram Wrangler, and this because it's too many 5-drops, right? Um, I think Stranglethorn Tiger is better than this, and people don't really play Stranglethorn Tigers, so I don't see this being played. It's the only thing is maybe it adds some game to the Feign Death decks in Wild, but in Standard I don't think it will see play. In Wild, if you want to play like the super greedy Feign Death deck, it actually fits in pretty well. You can just go all out. You can play Nerubian Eggs and Sylvanas and like even like crazy greedy stuff like Sneed's Old Shredder and stuff like that, and then play 2 Feign Deaths and this, and maybe it will work then, because like it's pretty likely you can keep an egg in player. Getting an extra 4/4 on turn 5 is amazing, so maybe that would work, but I don't know. I think it's too tricky. I think the best decks in Wild are still going to be like super focused aggression decks, so it's going to be really hard to keep up with that when you're playing all this. Like Feign Death is just such a bad card, it's like if you don't get the combos, you just have this like useless card, and so I don't think that will work. But overall, I don't like this card much. Giant Sandworm, this is obviously just fairly unplayable and constructed. I think Call of the Wild is not great. I think other people love this card, but I just don't think it's good enough. Like, it is a lot of value for 8 mana, but like in Hearthstone, if you pay 8 mana, you need to get a lot of value. And in both mid-range, if it fits, it'd be like, the old Finager in mid-range. But is this honestly going to be better than a Ragnaros? And would you ever play 2 8-mana cards in a deck? I mean, so just think about, like, if you're playing mid-range Hunter and you have the choice, are you really going to play this over Ragnaros? Like, is it really better than Ragnaros? I don't think it is. And are you really going to play this and Ragnaros in a deck? I don't think so. So I don't think it's playable. I mean, it's a lot of value on a card, but for constructed standard, or even Wild, I don't think it will be able to be good enough in the long run. I think Ragnaros is better, and I don't think you want 2 8-drops in your Hunter deck ever. And I actually think the best Hunter deck will be Face Hunter, and this obviously is too slow for that. Vested Wolf, 4/4, 3/3, summon 2 1/1 spiders. So I think this card is better than the previous cards, but still maybe too weak. If you think about this in terms of Haunted Creeper, you're basically getting an extra 2/1 for 2 mana, and that shows you how bad it is. If you compare it to Piloted Shredder, for example, it's much worse. It is a beast, and I believe the 2 1/1s are beasts, so it has some Houndmaster / Ram Wrangler synergy. It's possible if you go all in on the Houndmaster Ram Wrangler stuff, this is good enough. I'm thinking of another 3/3 beast, which is the Discover a Beast. I mean, a discovered beast is more value than 2 1/1 spiders generally. However, 2 1/1 spiders being on the board is pretty valuable. But I mean, so one of the reasons Shredder is so annoying is because you can't just sit there and take 4 damage, right? Like, you have to kill it. You can't just let them just keep hammering you for 4. You'll die pretty quick. 3 is a lot different than 4. You can just let them hit you for 3 for a few turns, and it doesn't matter that much, or as much at least. I mean, that difference between 3 and 4 adds up a lot. So, I mean, you're not as required to kill this as Shredder. It's just as easy to kill as a Shredder. The 2 1/1s are not as good as what comes out of a Shredder. So, I mean, it's just strictly worse than Shredder in almost every way. Granted, Shredder's being rotated out, and Shredder was one of the best 4-drops ever. But, I mean, there are a lot of cards that are almost as good as Shredder at 4, and Houndmaster's certainly better than this by a lot. So how many 4-drops are you really going to fit in your deck? Do you play one of these in 2 Houndmasters? Maybe. I can't see playing 2 of these ever, because Houndmaster is so much better than this, and granted it does have synergy with Houndmaster, but I'm seeing one of these at the most, and maybe one is okay, but it's definitely not a really great card. Next card is Forlorn Stalker, Battlecry, give all your Death Rattle minions +1/+1, and it's a 3-mana 4/2. Well, 3-mana 4/2s are bad. It's too easy to kill with whatever they already have on the board. Makes your following turns better. I think this will be good in Wild, maybe. It certainly won't see play in Standard. It's just not. There's not enough good Death Rattles. I know they're trying to push the Death Rattle Hunter. I think it's reasonably likely there'll be some really cool Wild Death Rattle Hunter decks with things like the following card, Infest, and also things like Feign Death, and things like just a lot of like sticky minions like Haunted Creeper and Nerubian Egg. I mean, so the problem with the Nerubian Egg Feign Death deck was it's very hard to get Nerubian Egg's a great card, but in order to make it work, you need to have a lot of activators. You need to have at least 6 activators, and probably more like 7 or 8 activators in a Warlock deck, you can get away with like 6 activators in a Warlock deck because you can just tap a bunch if you don't have the activators, and so you're always going to draw more cards, so you can get away with like 6. I think you almost need like 7 activators for an Nerubian Egg, and so let's just say you're playing a Feign Death Hunter deck. Well, before it was really hard to get 7 good activators for an Nerubian Egg, but now you have Princess Hurohan is an activator, you have obviously your 2 Feign Deaths, which is 3 activators, and then this card is actually an activator as well, because if you don't play the egg and then you play this, now your egg's a 1/3 and now it can just attack, and then and things like Web Spinner, Haunted Creeper, Nerubian Egg, and Mad Scientist are all the kinds of things you would want to play in a Death Rattle Hunter deck anyway. They're all pretty good with Feign Death. So in Wild I can see this being played, and if I just want to play for fun, I may play a Wild Death Rattle deck and try this, but I don't think it will see play in Standard because there just aren't enough Death Rattles right now, and it's super weak when you play it. It's almost like a spell, like the 2 damage is so easy to deal with that, like if this was even just a 3/3, it'd be so much better. But as a 4/2, it makes it a lot worse. Infest, this is like a super combo card. I mean, like I was talking about before, like you can make some crazy value hunters already in Wild with things like Ball of Spiders, Feign Death, and if you add in all these other like ways to make Feign Death like more synergy, it's possible you can do some things like with Infest as well, where you can just get a whole bunch of beast value. The problem is that like this is just really bad against aggressive decks. Like this is more just like if it's a super slow metagame and lots of control deck, you run into Control Warriors. I mean, Control Warriors have a pretty hard time dealing with Ball of Spiders and Feign Death, and cards like Infest probably as well. Like Ball of Spiders, Infest, you get like 6 beasts, stuff like that. Like there may be some kind of crazy value hunter deck that plays 2 Feign Deaths and 2 Infests and 2 Ball of Spiders, because that's another thing about playing Feign Death is you want to have a lot of cards that are really good with Feign Death. So yeah, you have a lot of cards that are okay with Feign Death. And what I mean by okay is like if you Feign Death a Haunted Creeper, then you pay 2 mana for 2 1/1s. It's not great. Now, what are the great cards with Feign Death? Nerubian Egg is great. A 4 mana, 2 mana 4/4 is pretty great. Sylvanas is obviously great. Ball of Spiders is pretty great. It's 3 beasts for 2 mana. But you don't really want to play 2 Ball of Spiders with the only synergy being with Feign Death, so generally in Feign Death decks you'd play like the old 1 Sylvanas, 1 Ball of Spiders, and then all of a sudden you have all these 6-drops and you can't fit Highmane in, and this is why Feign Death Hunter never really worked, right? But if there's some way that you can like really focus it, right? Like I think Secret Paladin's a good example of like I tried to build Secret Paladin many times in beta and other times where I used Secret Keeper and Secrets, and it's never quite worked, and then like all of a sudden there's this Challenger card, and now just everything kind of falls in place where they just kept releasing secrets, and there's another secret synergy card, and it all worked together. And this is the same sort of thing that could happen in Wild, and probably will happen eventually. It may not happen yet, but eventually I believe there'll be some crazy like Feign Death deck in Wild, and Infest could be part of it because it's only 3 mana, and like if you have like, for example, let's say you manage to stick a board of just not a great board, but like maybe 1 egg and 1 Haunted Creeper, and then 1 Web Spinner, or 1 Scientist. 3 kind of sticky Death Rattle minions that they didn't kill, and you have that on the board on turn 5. You can Infest and Feign Death, and then you can get, a 4/4, 2 1/1s, a secret, and 3 beasts, and then all those other things are. Well, you could do it either way. You could either Infest then Feign Death to get the beast in hand immediately, or you could Feign Death first and then Infest to get the beast later, which also could be good. So like, yeah, I mean, I think the Infest Feign Death synergy is pretty good. I'll actually probably try this in Wild if I'm bored. Could be decent. Carrion Grub 2/5 beast. I think this is okay. 2/5 in general is okay. I mean, the main reason this is good is Houndmaster and Defender of Argus, and the one thing that I've done in the past a decent amount is actually play both Houndmaster and Defender of Argus. And if you want to do that, you want to have a lot of ways for that to be good, and this is a way for both of those to be good. It's 3 mana, it's 2/5, it's also a beast. I think it's a pretty solid card. The bad news is you already have a lot of good 3-drops, like Animal Companion and Bow for sure, and probably Kill Command and Unleash and all this stuff. But I think this is actually a pretty decent card. Better than people will think. It's a 2/5 for 3 mana. It's a beast. It obviously works great with Houndmaster. And before there used to be the Snapjaw Houndmaster stuff, and Snapjaw was 4 mana, so they couldn't go 3 into 4, right? But like, say hypothetically you want to play the Beast Synergy deck. Well, another card to compare this to is those just like something like the Desert Camel. Depending on how aggressive the metagame is, if other people all have a lot of 1-drops, then giving you both a 1-drop probably isn't good. But in certain metagames, the Camel would be way better. It's also a beast, and it's 2/4 instead of 2/5, but it also gives you another minion. Certainly wouldn't play this over Animal Companion, but I do think this has some merit. I don't think it's great, but it has some merit. Fiery Bat. Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, 1 mana, 2/1 beast. This is great. This is a card I've wished has existed forever, and that is basically just an early aggressive beast. So we had Web Spinner, which was an early sort of mid-rangey control beast, but we've never just had the old like 1 mana, 2/1 beast, which is really great. This is the kind of deck that you will put in every Face Hunter deck. It's an excellent card because it has some value. It has some insane potential where, like, hypothetically, you play this turn 1, and then they play a 3/2, for example, which sometimes happens, or a 2/3 rather. They play a 2/3. Well, now it's like got a chance to kill that 2/3, you know, even though it's a 1-drop. Obviously, if it was a 3/2, it would kill it and do 1 to them, which is even better. So, yeah, pretty great. Has Beast Synergy. Late game, you can play it, Kill Command. The Death Rattle is reasonable. I mean, it's not overpowered, but it's good. I think it's a great card, and I'll definitely play 2 of these in my Face Hunter deck. Pretty good card. Okay, last card, On the Hunt. Deal 1 damage, summon a 1/1 Massive, which I believe is also a beast. This card is okay. It may not have enough value. I mean, obviously, the thing is like, so I think this might be good enough, and the reason is that, like, Elven Archer's close. People have played this is effectively an Elven Archer that is a beast, right? Elven Archer's close to good enough, and people have played Elven Archer before, and the fact that it's a beast makes it much better. It means that on things like turn 5 you can guarantee a Houndmaster proc, or if you want to play the Ram Wrangler Houndmaster deck, you can always get a 1-mana beast pretty easily. It's way better than the Boar because it can go past taunts and stuff to do the 1 damage. Well, I guess not better than the Boar as a charging 3/3 taunt with Houndmaster. It's good late game because it's 1 damage to their face and activates the Kill Command. I think this card's better than people are giving it credit for. I think it's super flexible, and you get a beast for it. And I think this is going to be more of like the mid-range hunter card. It also does work with a hunter's mark and stuff like that. It also does work with lock and load. I mean, obviously they nerfed hunter's mark, which hurts lock and load a little bit. Lock and load never really quite worked in the previous expansion, but it's certainly possible that it will work, and this could be a way that it helps it work. I mean, I'm sure everyone would have played this in every lock and load deck that they tried when they tried it, if it existed. So I think this card's underrated. I think it's decent, maybe even good. I think this one will surprise people. It's also like, so think about this in like Hunter Mirrors, right? Like, what are you doing when you're playing Face Hunter? You're playing a bunch of 2/1s or 3/1s, like a bunch of things that die to 1 damage, and this effectively kills 2 of them. It's great, you know, like if I'm playing Face Hunter and you're playing Face Hunter, and I go turn 1 Fiery Bat, and then you go turn 1 Fiery Bat, well, I guess it sucks for me that you have a chance to kill one of my guys, but I kill your Fiery Bat, and then I have a 1/1 and a 2/1. Maybe it's better to trade. I don't know. Anyways, point being, this card is better than I think people are giving it credit for, just because a lot of early game board control matchups where this can be considered. This can be compared to something like a mini bot or something in those matchups where like the reason it's so good is because it takes 2 hits. You know, like I know it's only a 1/1, but a 1/1's actually really strong versus certain classes. Like versus Hunter, a 1/1's great. Like that 1/1's going to kill a Wolf Rider or a, you know, a abusive sergeant or something at some point, potentially. Or I mean, could also give them an extra unleash token. But it's also a beast, so it's activating your beast cards. Yeah, I like this card more than other people. I think it's okay. So, summary. I think Hurahan's only a wild card. Giant Sandworm is bad. Call of the Wild I think is unplayable, although it is a lot of value. Maybe some kind of crazy combo deck figures out how to make this better than Ragnaros, but I don't see it right now. I think Infested Wolf is borderline to bad. Forlorn Stalker is probably bad, but even if it is good, it's only in wild. Infest seems like a wild combo card only. Carrion Grub seems decent. Fiery Bat is what I think would be the best card, and I think On the Hunt seems decent. So overall for Hunter, I would say probably a little worse than decent, maybe even close to bad, not great. However, Hunter is benefiting immensely from the GVG rotation. I don't know if you got. That's our next step. Let's go ahead and build a deck. So let's build a Face Hunter deck and just look at. I mean, Arcane Golem got nerfed, Ironbeak Owl got nerfed, and Hunter's Mark got nerfed. Hunter's Mark will still be pretty good. I'm not sure if I want to play the Hunter's Mark or the Owl, even nerfed, or maybe a Spellbreaker. Anyway, so let's just... we're obviously going to play the Fiery Bat here. Probably no other cards out of that set. But so Leper Gnome got nerfed, but we have Fiery Bat, which is probably roughly as good as Leper Gnome, or you know, close at least to as good as Leper Gnome was. Maybe a little worse, but definitely compared to what other classes have, it's better. We could also play Brave Archer, by the way. Brave Archer is pretty good. I'm still going to play 2 Explosive Traps. Explosive Traps great in Hunter even when you don't... I better click Standard only here. Explosive Traps great in Hunter even when you don't have Mad Scientist. Probably we're playing at least 1 Quick Shot. I'm just trying to build a deck that's pretty similar to current Face Hunters. I mean, this could be innovated even more, but I just want to illustrate how we lost literally nothing after the nerfs and changes, which is why this deck's going to be really strong. I mean, we lost Haunted Creeper, which matters, and we lost Knife Juggler, which sort of matters, but I've played many decks in the past that used Direwolf over Knife Juggler anyway, so I'll just do that now, because also since we lost a beast, that's another beast. Actually, I'm going to try, in this version, since it's an Old Gods review, let's go ahead and try this stealth card. So we're running this instead of a creeper, we're running the... so we need another 2-drop still. Flame Juggler seems more than good. Garrison Commander could always also be good, just because it's a pretty good late game. I don't know. Run something like this. We lost Arcane Golem, but we can play Origin Horse Riders and Wolf Riders. I think actually I may play 2 Wolf Riders and 1... I don't know why I'm missing Wolf Rider. I would say Hunter will be in the top half of classes in this set. We play 1 Origin Horse Rider, and we'll play Leroy. And what would normally be in here? Like 2 owls. So the question is, do we want to play like owls, like some kind of silence? Or, I mean, I think the Hunter's Mark nerf is less bad than the owl nerf. So let's try Hunter's Mark. Keep in mind, the owl thing was much more important because of Sledge Belcher. Hunter's Mark, while you will need to do 1 more damage, I mean, that's just 1 Unleashed token or something, right? I just put 1 of these each in. Probably you'd pick which one you think is better and play it. And maybe a second quick shot for the last card so we have a little more reach. So, yeah, I mean, this deck is... I mean, yeah, we lost Knife Juggler. We lost the Knife Juggler Unleashed combo, and we replaced it with the Direwolf Alpha Unleashed combo, which is pretty good. Actually, since we're running Direwolf Alpha, we may want to run more 1-drops, like, because Direwolf Alpha is great with 1-drops, so maybe we do want to run the Brave Archer as well. And we can run something along the lines of, like, Brave Archer, and then, like, maybe we just run 1 Brave Archer. Something like this. Obviously we lose the Scientist stuff, but I mean, we still have like a nice good early curve, we still have tons of reach, we have double quick shot, double kill command. Actually, Brave Archer actually even adds more reach, because late game you can just basically do 2 damage to their face with it. I mean, this deck will probably lose to some super armor focused warrior Cthulhu deck, maybe, but other than that, what's really going to deal with it? I think it'll be really good. I think this will be one of the top 3 to 4 decks in the format. Something like this. Going to be really hard to deal with. And granted, we only added in 2 cards from the new set, but we honestly could have built this deck with no cards from the new set. We could play, 2 Brave Archers instead of 1, and maybe play 1 other 1-drop, and then some other random 2-drop would work. We could play an Argent Squire since we're playing the Direwolves. Could play a Lowly Squire. Could even play a 1-mana Leper Gnome. Could play a Deckhand maybe. So yeah, this deck's going to be really good. Alright, well, that's the end of my Part 3 review, and let's see what we'll do for the next part. For the next part, I'm going to do Mage. Thanks for watching.